Let's bring in the two-time Wisconsin Sports Writer of the Year, Rob Demovsky of ESPN's NFL Nation. We've been doing this a long time, Rob, but I don't
Dan, you know what, Dan? I was thinking about that this morning, and I'm pretty sure it was 15 years ago, probably to this day, that we were talking about them drafting Aaron Rodgers to replace Brett Favre.
Do you remember what you felt, what you said about that strategy that day?
Yeah, I remember thinking that I get it because remember for how many years Favre had been waffling about retirement. It was an annual thing with him starting in about 2002 or 2003. So they had several years of the will he or won't he come back. So I felt a little different then than I do about this.
All right, how do you feel about this?
Surprised because Aaron Rodgers, has said that he wants to play till he's 40 or beyond. He's got 4 years left on that $134 million contract that he signed a couple summers ago. He's under contract through the 2023 season. And he has never said anything about, if I win one, I'm going to hang it up. If this happens, I'll walk away. No, there's been none of that. He admires Brady. He admires Breeze. He said that time and again, and the thinking was that he would follow, those guys and play to 40 and beyond.
Knowing his personality, and you, of course, have been around him a lot more than I have, but I've been around him socially, and it feels like football is not a means to an end, that he's not one of those lifers like Breeze or Brady, and I might be wrong in that. And also, I viewed this as, boy, if you want to – the Packers have to understand his personality, too. How does this affect him now, these next 2 years? And that's where I think you probably go, okay, let's get this guy. Maybe he's 3 years away. Maybe this really gets Aaron Rodgers pissed off. And a pissed off Aaron Rodgers is a great, great quarterback. What do you think of that philosophy?
There's definitely something to that, Dan. There's two ways it could go. There's one, like you said, it could put another chip on his shoulder. And you know how long he's operated with a chip on his shoulder. It goes back to, being snubbed out of high school and having to go to Butte College, and then the draft, the whole thing falling, from when he was supposed to be 1 to 24. So the chip on the shoulder thing is definitely there. It could spark him to play his you-know-what off for the next couple of years. But he's also a very smart but calculating guy. And, I'm not so sure that the other side of it might be he might say, you know what, screw you guys. You're not helping me at all here. I'm not saying he's going to ask for a trade or anything, but I don't think it's going to sit overly well. We would hear for years how he was upset that they weren't signing free agents, that Ted Thompson was, not aggressive enough. Well, here's an opportunity, to get him some help offensively after a year in which they come one game away from the Super Bowl, and they do this. I could see him being a little ticked off, and not in a good way.
Does Aaron Rodgers end his pro football career in a Packer uniform?
I asked somebody that knows him that last night. I asked that exact question, and they said yes, which surprised me. So maybe it speaks to your point in that, 2-3 more years. And he says, I've got other things. I've got bigger things I want to do. Look, we know he's big into the arts. He is a smart guy, well-read. Maybe there is something more for him after football.
We're talking to Rob Demovsky. He covers the Packers for ESPN, NFL Nation here. I also find this interesting, just like we saw with Garoppolo and Tom Brady, who share the same agent. Rodgers and Jordan Love are both clients of Athletes First, the same agency. Awkward. But they don't share the same age. By the way, is this that State Farm dude? Because that State Farm dude is going to get fired.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I actually looked up this week when I had heard that Jordan Love was on their radar. I said, well, I'll call his agent, see if there's anything to it. And then I looked at it was Athletes First, and I said, oh boy. Now that's a huge agency, obviously, as you know, Dan. But it's not unlike the fact that Mike McCarthy and Matt LaFleur also have the same agent.
I also wondered this: who was going to swoop in and take Jordan Love It's one thing to take him because you say, hey, he was the best guy on the board and he fell into our lap. He didn't fall into your lap. You went to go get him, and you moved up 4 spots. Who do you think wanted Jordan Love and, made the Packers flinch?
Yeah, my guess is that somebody in the early second round, I think Indianapolis might have been there. And, and then there's the whole Patriots factor. You never know what they might do. So I would think it was one of those two. And
I'm going to guess that you're going to load up on skill position players in round 2 for Aaron Rodgers.
Well, they better. they better. The immediate response I was thinking would be, all right, now you trade up in the second round and get a receiver. I mean, you probably get a good one at 62 where they're sitting tonight. But as a show of good faith, don't you almost have to trade up to get a receiver and appease Rodgers in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, or bring in Des Bryant.
That would be an option also.
Oh, thank you, Rob. Well, it gives you something to chew on up there for quite some time.
Yep, thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
All right, bud. That's Rob Demovsky.